Okay, in this video I'm going to talk through some of the ways in which you can use the CxO priority cards to be able to facilitate discussions with senior leaders in organisations and also with their teams and between teams as well. I've developed out a series now of 4 playboards. This is the first of them. This is called the Me, Us, You board. And at the moment we've got 2 sets of priority cards. There's a CIO set and a CMO set. We've got a CHRO set soon to be available, and we've also got some themed ones in development at the moment as well. One set around data priorities, another set around the priorities that a startup might have, and information security is another one that I've got in development as well. So the way this game works, ideally the setting is that you've got groups from maybe 2 departments in an organisation, and helping them to be able to explore where there is maybe miscommunication at the moment about who owns various elements of strategy. So I'm going to use the CIO set of cards for this demonstration. And if you imagine you've got some people from a digital team and some people from a traditional IT team from the same organisation, this is the setting for this sort of game. So you deal out or shuffle the priority cards and then just start to go through them one by one. First example I've got here is introduce a new ERP system. Well, if we take me as being the IT department and you being the digital team, then introducing a new ERP system is probably going to fit fairly straightforwardly into the IT department. Who knows, that might be different in different organisations. Next card up, improves software license management and cost optimisation. A bit of a sort of traditional IT discipline there. Developing new technology apprenticeship schemes up next. And that would probably be something that they would want to be able to hopefully work in more collaborative ways against each other. Enabling enterprise-wide content searching. You can see in some organisations that will get called out as being something that the digital team is involved in. Similarly, this next card, investment in startup, incubator and accelerator programs, might be something that a digital team is looking at. Next one up, exploring the opportunities of artificial intelligence, machine learning and other natural language buzzwords, and maybe both teams would be looking at that. Key thing here is it's a quick way to be able to get the sorts of discussions about priorities out in the open using some external stimulus and input to allow conversations to happen that might otherwise be difficult to do so. So that's the Me, Us, You game. Okay, this next game is the mini Kanban game. Aim of this game is to be able to help a team to be able to look at the full set of priorities that are in the deck and be able to work out, is that something they've got on their to-do list? Is it something that they're in progress with at the moment? Is it something they've already done, or is it something that they see as out of scope? And there's a quick and ready way just to be able to stress test a set of strategies or priorities in an organisation, get people thinking around what they might not have thought about. And as I've used this for CIOs to be able to just give them a sort of status of where their current thinking is at against what it might be. So I'm going to use the CMO set, the blue ones this time around, and this time let's start off with something that is on the CMO's mind, so developing our web and mobile strategy and execution. Well, hopefully that's something that is in the doing or done, you never know these days. Improving media spend through better accountability of paid channels, maybe that's something that they've got on their list to do in 2019. Ensuring data regulation compliance with privacy and so on. Well, given that we're now well past the deadline for GDPR, you'd hope that is something that's already been done. Never can tell. Digitisation of our businesses, products and services. Depending on sector, that might be done, might still be to do. For some it might be out of scope. Exploring the opportunities of emerging technologies like AI or blockchain. Maybe that's on the long list of things that the CMO and their team need to get around to. Again, very quick way to be able to help people have discussions about where their current priorities lie, where they should lie, and if there are any gaps. Next up, this next game is called Customers, Suppliers, Us, alternatively known as the Who Gives a Shit game. The aim of this one is to be able to help understand for a particular priority who might care, who might it be delivering benefit for, because not all priorities are necessarily delivering benefit to everyone, and in many cases we may well find we end up priorities that don't deliver anything to anybody. So let's start off. First one up, ensuring data regulation compliance, privacy and so on. So this is the CMO set again. Hopefully that would sit maybe in the it's delivering value to both customers and to us as an organisation because it stops us getting sued. Developing our web and mobile strategy and execution, again hopefully it will be in that intersection there. Improve the gender balance of the current marketing leadership team. Now ultimately that sort of thing would lead hopefully to better marketing, therefore better benefit to customers, but it's a sort of internal initiative that in the first instance probably is mostly about delivering benefit to the organisation as a whole. Understanding the insight requirements of senior executives, again helping the organisation to be able to work more effectively. Improving the CSR profile of the organisation, maybe that's something that sits right in the middle as everybody benefits from organisations being more socially responsible. You get the idea. With the forthcoming CHRO set, I imagine you'd want slightly different areas there. Maybe it would be the organisation managers employees, or maybe you could think about it as prospect employees in a recruitment setting. And for a public sector organisation, you might have citizens rather than customers, and you might have politicians rather than suppliers if you think about it from a policy perspective. But again, a quick game to be able to get people thinking about the priorities that they have and who those priorities are actually of benefit for. Okay, and the last game that I'm going to talk through is the 4 Rooms game. Now there's a bit of backstory to this. This is an adaptation of a psychological model for thinking about how we go about learning things. Starting down in the bottom left hand corner, we are unconsciously incompetent of things when we don't know anything about them. We then move into a stage of conscious incompetence where we know that we don't know anything about them, and it can be incredibly disorientating. The example I use to explain this is thinking about when you started driving. So before you had your very first driving lesson, as a kid you were blissfully unaware of what it was to drive, and it all looked really easy because you watched people who were drivers drive and they knew what they were doing for the most part, apart from my grandfather. He wasn't so hot, but that's another story. And then as you sat behind the wheel for the first time, you become abundantly aware of how incompetent you are. You then move into a phase into the top right corner there where you become competent but very conscious of your competence. You think when you did your driving test, you would have been thinking in terms of mnemonics in your head of mirror signal manoeuvre, or please don't pull out in front of that car after an emergency stop like I did last time. I was a second time test passee. And then finally you get to a stage where you become unconsciously competent. Things become almost second nature, and that bottom corner I've called excellence or complacency, because there is a risk, especially in an environment where things are changing around us, that you can become very complacent because you think you know what it is you're doing, but the world around you has changed. Now the aim of this game, played with the priority cards, is to be able to look at where you are at the moment in terms of priorities, in terms of how competent as an organisation you are, and then from that then be able to think about in the second phase what needs to change. Just give a few examples. Go here, we'll start off with some examples. Consolidate data centres and move into cloud hosting provider. Now imagine your organisation has basically moved everything to AWS or Azure. You're in a happy world, so therefore you're able to say, yeah, we do that, we know how to do it. Introduce service design techniques and delivering new services. Maybe service design is something completely new and you know nothing about at the moment. Improving the environmental impact of the technology you use. Maybe again that's something down there. People seem a lot less aware of that these days. Ensuring data regulation compliance. Well, everybody having recently gone through the GDPR exercise are probably quite aware of all of that stuff and hopefully built up some competence. Digitisation of our businesses, products and services. Imagine you're an organisation that doesn't have much consumer facing stuff, and therefore that might still be quite new. And then we'll do one more, which is moving from a centralised to a federated business structure. Maybe that's something that you have done in the past, and so therefore you are excellent at it. Now you'd map out the cards as you see fit, and then beyond that what you would do is then ask the question, what needs to move? And in any reasonable period of time, say a 3-month time frame, I don't think it's much more possible than to move one box in the direction of the arrows. You can never go back to blissful ignorance. If you know how to do so, if you have some sort of exposure to it, it's always going to have a certain level of awareness of incompetence, if nothing else. But let's say you are about to move into a world where you need to get much better at turning your products and services into digital products and services. So the stuff in the top left hand, you need to be able to move over into the mindful effectiveness area. You want to be able to introduce service design techniques to be able to help you with that migration into developing better digital products. And whilst you're doing that, because you've moved all of your infrastructure into data centers, you might say, well, actually there's less priority now for being able to consolidate stuff, because anything that's remaining now might actually be quite challenging because it's not, it's edge case stuff. And so you get that idea about how by a short exercise using the cards and this playmat, you get to a point where you're able to understand what is it that we are needing to focus on in terms of building competency, and where are the areas where maybe we need to think about, if we're up in the bottom right hand corner around the excellence area, is the world changing around us in such a way that maybe we need to be guarding against complacency and thinking about that in maybe different ways. So there you go, that's 4 different games to be played with the cards. We've got a CMO and a CIO set available now. They're available for free download from stamplondon.co.uk. You can also order up pre-printed versions, and you can do that individually, or you can buy a pack of both sets. The playmats, I'm just sorting out supply for at the moment, but you can download the templates for those and print them out yourselves. These ones are actually printed out on fabric, and I'm sorting out a supply to be able to do those for anybody who wants them as well. Later in the year we've got a CHRO set, so HR priorities. We've got hopefully a Chief Information Security Officer set, looking at the issues of priorities around information security, which is a hot topic still, continues to be a hot topic and probably will be forever. And we're also looking at some themed sets that are going to come out, one of which is working for a client that's going to be produced, which is around data priorities and the use and manipulation of data in organisations. And I'm also working on a set which are startup priorities, both for startups to be able to use, but also to be able to help people who want to understand more about the ways in which startups think, of the sorts of priorities that are on the minds of a software startup or a product startup. Find more, stamplondon.co.uk. You can get in touch with me on Twitter at Ballantyne70.